What's up, everybody? We're back again tonight for the second night in a row of live cast. Back to our usual Tuesday night. Last night, if you missed it, we had two-time U.S. Open winner Roy Hawk on the show. It was pretty good to see Roy and talk to him, and he is a phenomenal fisherman, but an even better human being. Tonight we've got two special guests, and it's fast becoming a dynasty. The Fred Roumbanis Boom Boom Dynasty. Jackson, his son, is becoming quite the little fisherman. We're going to have them on to talk about fall fishing. They spend a lot of time on Dardanelle, and just kind of catch up with Jackson and see what's going on, and talk a little bit about high school fishing. Maybe get some advice for some of younger anglers that are watching. You know, the road that Jackson took, and maybe some things he did right, some things he would do different. So without holding this show up any longer, let's get them on here. Fred and Jackson, what's going on, guys?
What's happening, Ricky? Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, Freddie, what's going on, Jackson?
Good. How are you?
Doing great,
Good, man.
Doing
How
great.
are you doing?
Got a deer. We
got a deer.
We just got a deer
yesterday, you said, right?
the last 2 days, so we're happy. We filled the freezer.
Man, it's crazy. Filling the freezer up for sure.
Oh yeah,
Fred, you know, been around a long time. You played this game for a long time. Fall, let's just jump right into it. Fall can be a pretty challenging time of the year with the lake turning over, and you know the fish are changing rapidly. Can you just talk a little bit about, you know, some of the approaches you used going to a new lake and how you would approach it? Maybe help some of our viewers out.
yeah. So here's the situation. You know, the fish they're wanting to fill up. They're wanting to get fat for the winter. So they're going to be keyed in on bait. I mean, it's a real simple philosophy. Find the bait, you catch the bass. The trick is when you get to areas with too much bait, how do you get them to eat your lure versus something else? What I like to do is I like to burn a lot of baits fast and cover a lot of water, because eventually you're going to run into the right deal. But if you can find the areas that got the bait, I promise you there's bass there. They may not always bite, and it may be a timing situation. So you may have to rotate into those spots 3 or 4 times until they trigger, until they bite. And you're going to start learning those windows of opportunity that work best. And Jackson could tell you best. I mean, I haven't even had a fall tournament yet he's already had 2, and he's about to have his 3rd one this weekend. And heck, he finished 3rd last weekend. He finished 2nd in the U.S. Army Major League Fishing high school tournament. Only 2 places got to qualify to nationals, and he finished 2nd in that and had probably the best overall average of bass than anybody. So as far as fall fishing, this little dude right here is the man.
Well, Jackson, what's your go-to bait for the fall?
Man, a spinner bait. It's really done a lot for us lately. Spinner bait, frog, jerk bait, all of those have been crucial in our tournaments lately.
What frog do you throw?
The boom boom frog for sure.
Smart kid, huh?
That's
there
right.
It is, right there.
Let's see if I can trip him up a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
heck yeah. That's
so
actually
Fred,
been the one we've been catching them on right there. And that's the
why
Fred
don't you
frog.
talk a little bit
Boom Boom.
about your frog real quick, Fred, and
Yeah.
and some of the features of it. I know it's got some special features. Why don't you just go ahead and show them off a little bit?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's a hollow-bellied frog. There's a lot of them on the market. But you'll notice it's got a little patch right here. That patch we call frog fur. It's basically the loop part of Velcro. And what happens is the fish will grab it, and their teeth act as the hook part, and they can't blow it back out. So a lot of times you might be looking at your phone, talking to your buddy, whatever the situation is, they grab it. They can't blow it out. You get a better, they hold on to it a little bit longer. You get a better hookup. We added an extra heavy clevis. You can see the clevis is where you tie your line to. And by being extra heavy like that, you take the weight in the back. This one's been chewed up. The eyeball's missing on the chin. But the weight on the back, and what happens is it counterbalances. So when you walk it, every time you twitch this frog, it's going to walk 180, right? When you kill it, it's going to want to do it extra hot because of that clevis being so thick. I throw it on 50-pound to 65-pound master braid by Cortland. USA made braided line. And yeah, I mean, we got sharp hooks on it. I'll be honest with you, I've been switching them. I've been playing with different hooks. I switched them out recently with the trocar hooks, and it keeps it real weedless. It gets in those lily pads, and actually the hookup's pretty good. We're thinking about adding this to a new pro model frog. So we're kind of playing around with it right now and experimenting. That's what we do when we're not in serious tournament modes. But that is the Boom Boom Frog, and of course it's got that angry face on it. Our hashtag is Topwater Anger Management. So anyway, that's the Boom Boom Frog by Stanford Baits.
That's definitely a bait everybody needs to try out. Let's talk about the frog a little bit, and what time frames are you looking at to throw it, and is there a time when you just kind of put it away and say I gotta get away from the frog?
And I'll tell you, that's a really good, that's a great question, because fall fishing, you want to throw a frog all day long, but there's such small windows of opportunity, and finding those windows is the key. It's the key to doing it. You can waste all day long and then put it away when they're biting and totally miss the boat. So what I've found is usually first thing in daylight, you're going to get some good key bites. It's going to die until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And most tournaments start, or, weigh-in starts at around 3 or even 2:30. So you may only get 15, 20 minutes before you got to run back. And Jackson can tell you firsthand how important fishing during those key times are, and not running around. And really for me, most tournaments end when the frog bite gets really, really good. So what's cool is Jackson goes to school, mom drops him off, we jump in the boat and we run around while they're actually biting. He gets the best part of the day at the end of the day, and I've been running around looking for for opportunities that really don't exist. So the key time for me is that hottest part of the day. See what happens in the fall, you get these longer nights, right? You get these longer cool nights. Water temperature starts dropping. That's bringing the bait fish up shallow. There's a good feed going on. But as a frog bite is a surface bait, so as the water temperature is dropping, you want it to neutralize and start going back up a tad bit. And so when that happens, it's about the hottest part of the day, which is about 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And that heat of the day is what triggers them to bite.
Gotcha. I'm trying to get some questions lined up here while you're talking there, Freddie.
Sorry, I lost you on my visual, so just give me 1 second. I apologize.
So Fred's in Arkansas,
gosh,
and I think they probably don't have the best cell service where he's at. But we're working on it.
No.
Jackson, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
We can hear you great.
Right. Okay. So how old are you now? What grade are you in?
14 years old.
Wow. Man, I'm getting old. When did you first start thinking, hey, I watch my dad, I like what my dad does. I want to do what my dad does for a living. Is there a time that you were kind of like, at their back, this is what I want to do?
I'm not sure. It's been something I've always wanted to do. And I'm doing it now with high school. I'm getting into fishing where I can hopefully get up to my dad's level.
Right. Fred, you can relate to this days 10 years ago when I would get so excited about, my son doing well. Now you're kind of experiencing it. And did you ever think it could really be as good as it is when we were talking about it?
I'll tell you what, first of all, I'm so proud of Nicholas and Zachary. They are just absolutely crushing it. So congratulations. You've done an excellent job as a dad, and I'm just trying to follow in your footsteps here. But to see Jackson at 2 years old catch his first bass in our old neighborhood pond, to evolving to where he's at now, to the point where he jumps in the boat and catches more bass than me, not just like once in a while, but a lot of times. It's incredible. So a little history about me. I never stepped foot on a bass boat till I was 18 years old. I fished when I was 8, but everything I did was from shore and without anyone really showing me the ropes. So Jackson gets the opportunity to come out with me, which is great. And everyone's going to think, oh, well, he's the son of a pro. Here's the thing about Jackson. He fishes his own way. He does things I would never do, and he catches them. And it shocks me. He's told me in several tournaments, hey, Dad, let's go hit that dock over there. And I'm thinking to myself, you're probably wasting your time because I've never caught a fish on that dock in my life. And what does he do? He rolls up there, skips a bait under there, and whacks one. And I'm like, prove me wrong every time. So it's in the blood. Fishing is in the blood with us. It's not something that I can explain. His techniques are, like I said, different than mine. He's got baits that he catches them on. I can't get a bite on. I got zero confidence in. And the dude's a magician with a drop shot. Now, I like drop shot, and I've won some big tournaments with drop shot, but I don't do it in some places that he does it and the way he does it. And he's even jumped in boats with other pros. I'm not going to say names because I don't want to hurt any feelings here, but he's put clinics on with guys, and they're just like, what in the world are you doing with that? He's not even fishing the bottom with this thing, and he's catching fish. So, I mean, the little things he does with the finesse stuff, and it's funny because the last several times we fished these high school tournaments, he didn't bring a spinning rod. So drop shot wasn't even a part of the equation. He's definitely on the bait fish pattern, and he's got baits that, he's got confidence in. Like I said, or he said, spinner baits, swim baits, jerk baits. So, I mean, I'm a flit. I mean, you could tell him a little bit about that, but that's a killer bait in the fall.
Right. And Jackson, what's your favorite swim bait?
The Boom Boom swim bait for sure.
Good kid.
And what size?
I like the Baby Boom. That one's my favorite.
4-inch.
The 4-inch, but the Boom Boom swim bait, the regular size, is the one that's getting it done right now.
Right.
The line through,
I
guys.
would like to go out with you and we both throw the Papa Boom one day and see who gets worn out first, me or you.
Hey,
That thing's about as big as we are. But Fred, getting back to I understand how you feel, and it's until you experience it, it's pretty crazy. I've gotten to a point now where I'll go out with my boys and I don't even fish. I just go relax, enjoy the day, and it's awesome to watch them and how good they are at such a young age. Do you think that the resources that they have in front of them now, is that what makes them so much better, or is it like you said, is it genetics that make a kid a better fisherman? I don't know. And I've got 3 boys, two of the 3 fish. And the middle one just he doesn't want to do it. He has no desire to do it. So I think there's something there for sure.
You're absolutely right. There is definitely something in the blood that drives you to want to go fishing. It's a passion that it doesn't stop. I mean, it's always been my favorite thing to do, whether I'm in tournaments or fun fishing or just taking Jackson or even Avery out or even Julie. But, you can tell when things click for them. I wouldn't count that middle kid out just yet. Some things happen later in life. You know what I mean?
Sure. That's a fact.
Avery's scored 10 touchdowns this year. He's into football, and I'm super proud of him for that. And, of course, I'm going to support whatever either one of these kids want to do. But for Jackson, he just wants to fish, and he wants to compete, and he wants to – I mean, we can't go on the boat and fun fish without him making it a tournament of some sort. So, it's fun to watch all that. And, I think it's in the blood for sure.
And I think it's not something you can teach. They either have it or they don't have it. It's just like, a natural fisherman. Like, look at Aaron. I'm going to bring up Aaron Martins. Aaron is just a natural fisherman. He's going to catch them wherever he goes. I can't teach myself to be like that. I think that it's an instinct or whatever you want to call it. Right.
Yeah. You nailed it on the dot right there. There are, and I've had this talk with Aaron. So this is really cool that you brought him up because in my opinion, he's the greatest fisherman. I really think so because he does his own thing every time and it works. And he said this to me. He says, man, there's only a handful of guys that really get it. And I kind of felt like he was talking to me about it. So that made me feel good. And then I go and watch my kid and it's like, yeah, it's in the blood. It's genetics. But there are people that have to work really, really hard for things, and there are people that just naturally do it, whether it's school, whether it's engineering, whether it's, you know, simple things like reading. Like some people just read novels. I've been more of like an outdoor thing, you know. But I really feel like there's just things that work for everybody, and ultimately, you know, God has his plans for everybody, and I just feel like in this little circle right here, fishing is the deal.
No doubt, man. It's something to be said for it. We're getting a few questions. I'm gonna let them pile up a little bit. Right now, let's talk specifically about your swim bait and swim bait fishing in the fall. Maybe some things you like to do with it.
Okay. Yeah. So the cool thing about a swim bait, you know, again, here's my Boom Boom swim bait. This is the line through. I got it in the package. I like to leave them in the package as long as possible. Keeps the tails real straight. They're in a formed, molded package, so it just keeps them firm. In the nose of it, let's see if I can tilt this right. You just thread your line through, 15 to 20 pound straight fluorocarbon, and then you just tie the treble hook on. It comes with a treble hook. A lot of times I'll change that treble hook out with a Hayabusa round bend, size 2. With this big one, a size 1. With the 4-inch version, I use a 2. And, you know, basically that's it. You just hook one of the points back into the belly of the swim bait. With the smaller swim baits, I'll go with like a parabolic bending rod, like even your square bill rod, guys. If you got a good square bill rod, it's perfect for this bait. For the bigger bait, I like an 8-foot cranking rod. I've got a swim bait rod with Dobbins, and my cranking rod with square bill rod with Dobbins for the smaller ones. But basically, you want a parabolic bend in it because when a fish grabs it, you don't want to rip it out of its mouth. You got a treble hook. It's like throwing a crankbait. They're gonna eat it. You're gonna feel bump. You're gonna get 2 bumps, and that second one's you just load up and just start reeling it. And you don't really lose a lot of fish with it. You know, the bait slides up the line, and all you're fighting is a treble hook. The areas that I was talking about earlier, you know, backs of shallow pockets. This bait, cast it out, start reeling it in pretty much immediately. You're going to be running at about 1.5 foot, 2 foot under the surface. Hold your rod up a little bit. You're going to keep it up shallower. If you want to lower it, you can get down a little bit deeper. Just a slow retrieve, and you're going to cover these big bays where the bait fish are usually balled up. If you've got the forward-facing sonar, you can really see what I'm talking about. Bait's going to be balled up, and there's going to be usually 1 bass or 2 bass underneath those balls of bait, punching them and pushing them around. And if you can just creep this thing between the bait and the bass, you're going to get bit. So that's really the biggest thing. And a lot of times in these clear water lakes, even Darnell and some of these shallow pockets, you see the bait right on the surface. And when it gets slick calm, you'll see little ripples. And it just gives you targets to fire at if you don't have the forward-facing sonar. Or just look with your eyes. I got blue water polarized glasses. Water's, you know, clean enough where you can see the bait fish. And I just fire right around those balls of shad. Slowly reel it. Usually when I get into the shad, I kind of shake the rod a little bit, but then kind of keep that retrieve going steady. Don't just stop and go with this style swim bait. It's a consistent bait, but you can shake the rod tip to give it a little bit of extra quivering action. And a little, it has a panic action already in it. So it looks like a bait fish fleeing. And that's the key. And just hold on, because when one grabs it, you're going to have a fun time and catch a lot of fish doing it. So yeah, that's a killer technique right now. And the funny thing is, especially around here, you don't get a lot of guys doing it. So Jackson can go around, I can go around and fish just about every community hole, throwing a swim bait, and nobody's even throwing it. So something to think about, guys.
Yeah, I know it's, especially here in the South, it's kind of a overlooked technique. I guess more guys are catching on to it, but it's almost like a top word, something you got to always have on your deck, because you never know, you know, when it might pay off for you.
Yep, exactly.
That,
you just got to go throw it until it becomes one of your confidence baits, and you'll find out that you can catch fish on it dang near almost year round. I mean, that's the truth. So it's a bait that I've got tied on in my rod locker year round.
So that brings me to another question: the forward facing sonar. How much easier do you think it makes it on these young guys than like when you were coming up and used a flasher, and maybe if you were lucky, a paper graph?
So we use Garmin Live Scope, and I can tell you this: I've got a 12-inch unit. Jackson's younger; he's got better eyes than me. So the younger kids see the same thing, where they see more than we see. So they just catch the little precision a little bit better than we do. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely helped. But there's also that he puts the time on the water, guys. It's not the electronics, it's not the baits, it's not the rods, reels. It's what he's doing day in and day out. When he comes home from school, he runs down to our pond and he's fishing. He's trying out new lures. He's watching a lot of the YouTube, and I think that has a lot to do with a lot of these kids' success these days. Is that the techniques and stuff are out there to learn, and then if you put the time on the water, you figure out what works in different situations and what really triggers a fish to bite. And then he's already eliminating, like, let's just say there's a soft plastic Senko style bait. He's eliminated 90% of them and found 3 of them that work better than the others. So, he's already figuring out which ones, which brands, what works. And, that's huge. I mean, that's stuff that takes a lot of experience. And at his young age, at 14, it's scary. Let's see what's going to happen. The kid's 14 years old, guys. He's won 8 tournaments. 8 tournaments or 9? 9 tournaments. Sorry. He's 14 years old and won 9 tournaments. Finished second in his first MLF nationals, and he made, in the U.S. Army tournament here on Darnell, he's made nationals in his first MLF event. I mean, it's scary.
I mean, it's I can't wait to see where it's going to be in another 10 years. But I do think you hit the nail on the head with time on the water. And, a lot of people, you followed it up really good, because, a lot of people, it's hard for a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old or 16-year-old to get in a bass boat every day. But you don't have to be in a bass boat. It can be walking a golf course pond. It can be, the creek down the street from your house, whatever the case may be. So I want to make that clear, that you don't have to be riding around in a bass boat on a big lake to get better at your craft.
Exactly. Like I said, I never stepped foot on a bass boat until I was 18 years old. And for it to work out for me, it's pretty awesome. Because now, granted, we didn't have the high school, college. We don't have these opportunities the kids do today. Him and his team partner, Jaden, I want to give him a big shout out and credit too, because Jaden Spencer, his team partner, he's been a big part of their success. And, I just want to make sure he gets some credit, some street cred on that too. So, but yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get to a couple of these questions. My buddy Rick Williams wants to know, how cold is too cold for a frog? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, but let's go ahead and see if we can answer that one directly. And I'd like to know what you say about it. No, I'd like to know what Jackson says about it, and then I want you to follow it up. Putting him on the spot.
I like fishing it until like late fall, and then as soon as it hits early winter, those fish kind of back out in the shallows, and that's when the frog fishing starts slowing down. But well, honestly, like last year, it was February, and I ended up catching one on a frog. It just happened to line up perfect, warm water flowing, and I was able to catch one. But as soon as it like starts getting to where it's almost too cold out, and the crappies start biting, I think is when the frog fishing slows down.
See, he's not even paying attention to the water temps. He's paying attention to Mother Nature. Before we had
the knowledge, that's a big part of it, right? The day is getting shorter, the fish know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. It depends on what part of the country you're at. These northern largemouth actually trigger really good, even in the high 50s. I think a lot of it has to do with these big gizzard shad that are, that run the banks that time of the year too. But once that water temperature starts, you lose that. Like I said earlier, you lose that heating of the day, then it starts going away. But so I'm in California, and this is fact. In California on the Delta, I caught a frogfish at least one every single month of the year on the Delta.
Wow.
So if that Now I'm not saying it's good, but one of my best days was in January. Water temperature, I want to say, was like 52 degrees, but it was a situation where it was insulated with fog, and I was fishing thick hydrilla milfoil clumps that had, like, with the tide coming out, just kind of brought the water to where it might have been a foot over their heads, and I was throwing a white frog and just slow walking it. They would not jump out. They would just come up and just suck it under. And I had 18 pounds doing that one day in January. And I'll never forget that, because I've never had that happen again, but it happened. And it was just the coolest thing. You know, sometimes the stars line up like that, but it was a dense, foggy day. And so that had a lot to do with it.
I guess, you know, to make the answer to the question somewhat simple, and I know it's not this simple, but is there a water temperature that you see that you're like, yep, too cold?
I'm going to say once it gets below, well, I got to tell you now, because below 52. and that's that. I mean, that's just, once it gets down that low 50s, forget about it. But there are situations where I've caught them at Clear Lake in 55, 56 in the rain on a frog, and caught big bags. So in November. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's funny, because the times that you don't think it's good, somebody throws it and catches them. So it's definitely something you want to at least give a shot and try. But I can tell you right now in the fall, Darnell's been in the high 80s. It finally hit that 75. They weren't biting it even at 75. Like, it was too warm still. As soon as it hit 74, they started eating it. And I predict they will continue to eat the frog here at Darnell until two things. The lily pad starts souring, the grass starts souring, meaning it turns real brown and just gets nasty. And that's going to start happening. Or that water temperature gets back down towards, you know, the 50s.
Gotcha. All right. I think this is kind of a general question, but Chris Braden wants to know, do you use a fluorocarbon leader with your braid? I'm assuming that's flipping and pitching, not with a frog. But
yeah. Flipping, pitching. I do play around with it. That was one of the reasons I wanted a little bit bigger guides on my flipping rods, because, you know, the fluorocarbon's less visible for one thing, but it's also quieter. And there's situations where you need that, you know, or you need a little bit of stretch. So even though fluorocarbon it advertises no stretch or low stretch, it's definitely lower in monofilament. Braid's got zero stretch. So if you've got just a little tiny bit of shock absorbent, it does help from just ripping the, you know, bait out of its mouth. So yeah, I mean, we're using a stiff rod for flipping. So I do a lot of braided fluoro. Every one of my spinning rods is braided fluoro. Flipping, it's maybe 25% of it. A lot of it, I just go straight fluoro. And if the water's, you know, if I'm punching heavy mats or something, straight braid. But yeah, it's just
pretty simple situational setups there.
Yeah.
What about Jackson?
Yeah.
You on the same thing as your dad?
Yeah. I
Gotcha.
haven't messed around with flipping with braided fluoro much, but it could definitely be a lot better. Out here, the water's just so, like, it either is super dirty or like super clear. You don't get like a exact thing. So I usually just go straight fluoro.
It's probably a lot like the James River where you're from.
I would be willing to bet this. I bet he can tie the knot quicker than you can, only because his eyes are better.
Probably. we got to talk a little bit about this fall bait that people don't.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get this next question, because it's a two-parter and it might take you a little bit of time to answer it, and then we'll move on to those baits you just showed there. How'd you come up with the design for your frog and your swim bait?
Honestly, just my experiences over the years of throwing other baits, finding little flaws and little things I like, and just putting them all together in one package. You know, I mean, there's so many different things out there, but there's always something that you feel like you can improve on, or I would tweak, or I'd add a weight to, or whatever the situation was. So I just made it the way I'd want to throw it straight out of the package on both of them. And that's really it. Back in the day, and we all know that I threw that Bass Pro swim bait, the XPS, and had 2 Bassmaster second places back to back. One was an invitational or an open out in California at Lake Shasta, and then I went to Lake Amistad and finished second place in the very first elite tournament ever. Well, that bait was already discontinued. I just happened to have been driving across country and found them and said, "Man, $6, $7, this bait, close up." And it's a good deal. But yeah, I mean, so that bait was gone, and Optimum Baits is really the other swim bait that, with the top hook, the original Optimum swim bait. I caught so many fish from the bank before I ever stepped on a bass boat with that swim bait. I just had so much confidence in it, and we just, they've been a partner with me since day one of my career, and we worked together and we designed this bait. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've had tournaments where I should have really won on this bait. I won, it was at Kentucky Lake, and everybody's out ledge fishing, and I found a little secondary deal, and they were migrating, and I just threw it on one spot. And day 3, I only caught 3 fish, but I ended up 5th place. Had I caught a limit that day, I feel like I'd have won the tournament, but there's just been opportunities, and it's even like with a frog, I mean, growing up on the California Delta, competing against the best frog fishermen out there, knowing that you have to learn this technique and get good at it to compete. It's the same thing with a swim bait. Out there, I feel like I was not the first guy by any means to be throwing a frog, but I was one of the first guys to be throwing a swim bait in competition. So the swim bait came more natural to me even than throwing a frog, but the frog was one of those deals. I was closer to the Delta than I was going up to, Lake Shasta or Clear Lake or anything like that. So I spent more time fishing that shallow grassy stuff and really learned to master the craft, as you would say, of throwing a frog.
Awesome.
So
let's get this.
Those techniques have pretty much carried my career.
I'm curious to see how you answer this one because we never talk about it, and then we'll move on to those other fall baits. What's your toad setup like? Like the horny toad. Do you ever throw that?
What is that? No, I'm just kidding. No, I do. I mean, it's hard to beat the Zoom horny toad, honestly. Reaction Innovations has got a bait called the Shark. It's pretty good too. I've done some damage down there on that. If you're burning a bait on the surface, those kind of baits are great. When I came out with the weedless Boom Boom swim bait, it almost took the place of it. It's not something you're really going to burn on the surface, but you're running it so shallow under the surface. Right. Because I started throwing a swim jig and putting the toad on out. I don't know if you guys remember a classic years ago at Red River when I was in 3rd the first day throwing a horny toad on a swim jig. But I found that this swim bait does the same thing, and I can go through a lot less plastics with my swim bait than I can throwing a jig with a horny toad. So that's where, it kind of does, it's in the same situation. Casting over skinny water, shallow water, pre-spawn spots, and spawning beds, and just going with it. But a horny toad too, though, it's a good thing if you're looking. But heck, I work my hollow belly frog so fast sometimes, it does it does a similar job.
Right. Now I'll say that double diamond does a good job at
yes,
place where
the double toad. Well, and that, so the horny toad came first for me, then the double diamond, and actually right here on Lake Darnell, I was 2nd place in a Bassmaster Elite Series after a couple of days, and the water temperature dropped on me. I really think I'd have won the tournament, and unfortunately it dropped on me, but that was an awesome tournament. That's one of the reasons I wanted to move here, is because how fun that pre-spawn was. When you could drop your power poles and catch 50 fish in one spot, granted back then it was a lot better than it is now, so don't think I can do that these days, but it's just going through cycles, how every body of water does. But
sure.
Yeah, that swim jig, and now I came out with my own swim jig as well, and we call it the Gangsta because we had a swim jig done years and years ago. It went away. I gave a couple of them to some buddies, and some molds were made, and I finally got the molds back. So we ended up bringing it back, and being that 2020 was a gangster year for everybody, and then the whole gangster scene back in the 20s, the 1920s. It was a fitting name for the bait. But yeah, so this swim jig is awesome. That's another bait with Stanford. So I add the double diamond to that swim jig.
If you want to go ahead and talk about those other fall baits that you brought with you, I'd love to see them and hear what you have to say about them. And I'd like to get Jackson's 2 cents worth as well.
I'm going to let him explain his youth style of throwing a jerk bait that is new to most of us, at least after Red Crest. But go ahead.
Yeah, this bait, I had a lot of fun with it this year. This is the IMA Flip 120. I caught a lot on that this year. Just having fun around here. And it's real fun because you can watch them on your graph. And, forward imaging sonar, you can watch the fish and you can watch them eat the jerk bait. I thought it was like one of the coolest things, and it really is like a good way to catch them.
See, they're so good at them video games as it is. It's just bringing video game to reality. And he doesn't even make a cast until he sees a fish, and that's what he's not telling you. He sees, he just looks around with it, and he sees him, he fires on it. And if I see it, if I got him networked, right? So if he's on the front of the boat doing his thing with jerk bait, and I go ahead and put the live scope where we're using Garmin, the live scope on the back graph, and I see what he sees. If I beat him to a cast, he just looks at me with that. Look at them like you look at me for a minute. It's not right. He knows, and I know what he's doing, and it's fun though, because then it comes to him being able to get them to react on his lure, and obviously the way he twitches the bait and everything else. So
right,
that bait suspends really good. It darts really good, and it just seems to hit the right depth for especially out here.
Well, it's just another piece of the puzzle that you probably should have in your arsenal, right?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I got a cup event coming up. Here in November, and I probably would have overlooked a jerk bait just if he didn't have this one rigged up in the boat one day and put a clinic on. So he's not going to have that rod when I'm going for the cup event.
Well, so you're fishing the cup in Texas? Is it in Texas? Where is that?
I don't know.
They said
they don't tell you where it's at. They don't say. It's mystery.
They don't even tell you the state that it's in.
No, they said the state. You're right on the state, but that's all I got. I don't even know southern, middle, eastern. Texas is a dang country as it is. So the one thing we can't do is we can't sit there and pry and try to figure it out. So we just go with the flow, and hopefully they'll give me a destination location, and it won't be too far of a drive. That's what I'm hoping.
C. Dickey wanted to know, will we post the links? Yeah, I get the links up there, but it's OptimumBaits.com, and most of the stuff's on Tackle Warehouse. It seems like Tackle Warehouse has everything. My buddy Lenny Beard's got a question for you, Jackson. The logo on the opposite side from Bass Mafia on your shirt.
This is this right here, BMC Outdoors. It's Bass Mafia, but it's the hunting side of it too. So it's the whole outdoor store.
So Bart Langley also has a clothing line as well, right? Are you wearing his rain suit, Jackson?
No, sadly not. But I'm usually using the Gill rain suit.
Right, Gill's good stuff for sure.
Gill is legit. I'm telling you, it takes 4 stories of water pressure to break through the seams and seals of the FG 100, which is the Pro Tournament 3 rain suit. You do not get wet in it. I have had the same suit. Now I've got a couple suits, but I still use the same suit I got 4 years ago, and I still don't get wet. So it never treated it. Never did anything with it.
It's probably 10 years old, and he got soaked the first time this year. Same rain suit.
Which one?
one of the gill rain
most rain
suits.
suits don't last that long. I mean,
Nah.
they just don't. So,
And I mean,
they do say you could put them in the dryer for a little bit, like 10 minutes or whatever, and it'll kind of recharge.
right.
You know, but they don't use Gore-Tex. Like, I know that's something you can do with that as well, but they use their own proprietary technology, which is unique. But, you know, they're the number one rain gear and foul weather gear of international sailing, which is like the wettest sport on the planet. And if it's good enough for them, it's dang good enough for us.
Right. And I mean, you wear it a lot too. You wear your rain gear. I work with another company, but you wear it a lot more than just in the rain. I know I wear mine when I think I'm gonna be cold. I put the rain suit on as a top layer because it's so good for keeping the wind off of you. And I really, it doesn't matter to me what rain suit you're wearing as long as you wear a good one. It's well worth the investment, right?
Absolutely. And right now, if you go to the Gill fishing website, every good rain suit is 20% off right now. So
wow,
guys, take advantage of that because, and like I said, the FG 100, which is the Tournament 3, that's the one you guys need to look at, especially when you get a big discount like that.
All right, so we got one more question here. Sean wants to know, and I'll throw this to both of y'all. What tournament are you looking most forward to next year?
Jackson or me?
Both of y'all.
He's looking forward to his national championship. I already speak for him on that.
Well, let him talk about it. Where is it going to be at, Jackson?
It's going to be at Pickwick and Wilson Lakes in Alabama. I'm looking really forward to it. So it's going to be midsummer, or I guess kind of mid to late summer, late July, early August, and it's going to be really fun. I think. Well, it's going to be two tournaments in one. I qualified for the national championship, and there's the world championship at Wells. They're going on at the same time, like kind of two separate prize pots. And I think it's going to be a really fun time.
Hey, they're competing for $3 million worth of scholarships. He better do good.
He better be doing some push-ups and pull-ups because that big crankbait will wear him out.
Oh, dude. Look, I'm going to tell you this. At his age, he is 10 times better crankbait fisherman than I ever thought I could be. Like, dude, it's crazy. He catches them behind me cranking. So if he can get on that bite, I think they'll do well.
How about you, Fred? What are you looking most forward to? And wait, what are you fishing next year? Are you just going to fish the Bass Pro Tour? Are you going to fish the Pro Circuit too, or some opens?
You know, that's a lot to think about. I'd like to fish both, but it's also a lot of time away from my family, and you know, I want to be able to support Jackson and his fishing stuff as well. So for sure, the Bass Pro Tour. I mean, that's what I do. I don't know if I decide to fish in Toyota Series or go ahead and do the Pro Circuit. On the fence about all that right now. We're kind of just, you know, we're trying to wrap things up for this year still. So I haven't put much thought into next year, even though it's right around the corner. But as far as what tournament am I looking for the most, Jack, you're going to have to help me out. Where am I going? Look, I've been deer hunting for the last few days. I apologize. I probably should know my schedule next year. But you could probably name 10 lakes and mix them up, and I would probably tell you I don't know which one we're going to. So
it's just,
I think there's a couple.
It's just fishing. You just want to go fishing, right? And I hear that from a lot of guys. It doesn't matter where the tournament's at. I
look forward to the first event I get to fish next year because I'm back on the water. It's funny because it's the events I dread and I don't want to go to are my best ones. Like Detroit, this last one, I was like, nothing good has ever happened to me up there. You know, I don't need to go into detail about it all, but it's just always been something.
Right.
And I even left a couple days early this year anticipating something to go wrong. And something did go wrong, but we fixed it. We got through it and turned out to be a top 10 finish. So, hey, you just never know. I mean, that's it's I can't say that there's one that I really look forward to. I look forward to just getting on the water and fishing and competing, and you know, that's it. I don't look forward to I'll tell you what I don't look forward to. Missing knockout rounds. So let's not make that happen.
Well, let's see if we can do something about that. I mean, it's all on you, but I can give you the moral support.
No, I appreciate it. You're always there for me. I appreciate it.
We've had a couple of those heart to hearts.
You know when you walk up to me and I just turn my head like this, you're like, yeah, I probably
so yeah, I'm turning into a full-time psychiatrist as well. So Jackson, you got my number. If you need me, just call. I can help you out as well.
Hey, what I want to know is what are your kids doing? I mean, Nicholas is chasing it and he's doing really good. And you got Zachary.
Yeah, he's going to fish the opens again and some BFLs. And I think if I can work it out and Zachary's grades are okay, he's going to fish the opens as a co-angler and some BFLs as a co-angler. I think so.
Limit?
What's that?
Do you know what the age limit is in like the Toyota series by chance?
Well, I know that the opens are 16.
Okay, so it's probably similar.
Right, I would think it's the same. Zachary turned 16 in September, so we got some hopefully breaking news on another boat coming to the house here shortly, and
nice.
I'll just be glad when he gets his driver's license because it's such a pain always having to find somebody to take him to the lake and drop him off.
Hey, get this. So out here, Jackson's going to start getting his driver's permit. And how old do you have to be to get a hardship license?
15.
So at 15 years old, he's going to be taking his tail down to the launch ramp and launching himself and going.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I wish
we're dropping him off right now as it is, but
what does Julie think about all that?
Oh shoot, we're all for it. I mean, I've watched Jackson. He's been launching boats for me, and not the car side of it, but as far as getting in the boat and out. I mean, he got the boating safety class done, and that's something I recommend for all kids to go do for sure.
Absolutely,
like that is something I would say they all should. I mean, there's a lot of basic stuff that they may overlook. So, he's gotten that done. So as soon as he got that done, we let him kind of fish the bayou area by himself. We just kind of let it expand. We got a little aluminum boat that we call the Illuminati. It's got a couple power poles on it. It's decked out, and it's just a little 16-foot boat, totally custom. And he just, when you drop him off in an area, he can't just go running around the whole lake. He's stuck trying to figure out how to catch those bass in that area. So the more little spots I drop him in and he learns, guess what? He tells me about every one of them.
I agree 100%.
So he's learning stuff that most people would totally overlook. And when he took me out, he showed me a bite. I don't want to get into details. He's got a tournament this weekend, but he showed me a bite, and we went down the stretch, and he caught like a 5-pounder, 5.5, and FaceTimed me while I was doing a tackle demo at a store in Oklahoma. And he's 5. I'm like, dude, that's a big fish right now. Like Darnell isn't kicking out 5-pounders. And he had, how many pounds do you have that day?
I had like 17 pounds, I think, for my best 5.
Wow.
And it was in an area that I would have never fished in a million years. So, just
so Lenny said it's 16 for the Toyotas too. He fishes them as a co-angler, and
awesome.
Look, Lenny's kind of like a cheater though, because he's just as good out of the front of the boat as he is. He's good out of the back of the boat, but he's good out of the front of the boat too. Don't let him fool. He gets on here and tries to sneak around a little bit, but it's cut off this week. We got another question if you want to get it real quick, Fred, and then we'll.
Okay.
It's kind of a long one, so most of the stuff I fish is cut off a week prior to the tournament. What would be your approach to those situations? Spend a lot more time just finding fish or trying to catch them. Pattern change, catch them.
I think what he's saying is you got a week. It's off limits for a week, right? So you just go straight into the tournament, or do you get like 2 days, 3 days of practice, or is it just like it's off for a week and then you just got to go fish that day?
Right.
I guess I think let's just go off of that answer, like that question, because I think what he's saying is he's got a week where he cannot be on the water,
right?
And he's under the gun. You gotta pick up your strengths, and the one thing I can tell you is somebody's catching them, obviously, right? You know that somebody's catching them, but you can't let that bother you in your head. Like we have a score tracker, so that can just mess us all up. But you got to fish your strengths and fish the conditions, fish the moment. You know, Ike and Elliot always said that, and that's probably the best piece of advice I've ever heard anybody ever say is fish that moment. Go out there. Don't rely heavily on where you've caught them in the past, but rely on the situation at hand. The wind's blowing over there on that point. It's probably pushing some bait up there. Why don't you go run over there and fish it real quick? What's 5 or 6 casts? If that doesn't work, oh, look, there's some shade on that bank over there, little bluff wall, whatever. Go hit that real quick. Be willing to run and gun, be willing to adjust, and just throw the things you're really good at. And I promise you'll have such better tournament results.
Right. And I think that, you hear guys winning practice all the time.
Oh, dude, I've won a lot. I wish I had a trophy.
Right.
Yeah, this wall right here is all my practice trophies. You see them all?
Right.
Yeah. They don't really give them to you, so.
So the thing is, you got to take what you learn, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to take what you learn and practice and be able to adjust to that on the Derby days, because it's going to change in a week.
And if you catch a fish in the tournament and you're like, man, that was just one little lay down, consider that a pattern. Don't consider that a spot. Now, if you get on a windy bank and you catch one, the chances are there's probably more on that windy bank. So try not to leave that spot till you catch 3 fish. I know it sounds hard to do, but go back and forth till you get 3. Once you get 3, it might take you a couple of hours. Now you got all day, the rest of the day, to go catch 2. So, look at it like that. And if you get on a pattern situation where it was one lay down, go run the next one. Just don't be lazy. Just keep going. Go. But continue to do that, because you're only looking for 5 fish at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people kind of just, they just kind of put trolling around. They just kind of fish this, fish that, They sit there and they may be waiting for things to happen, which can be good if you know it's going to happen. But there's also those tournaments where it never happened. So
right. I mean, a week later, it could be totally, it could be changed.
Oh yeah,
I'm
watching Darnell. If I'm not on the water, for 4 days, I got to relocate them. So
right.
It's just, that's just how it is. And pay attention to little things you can pay attention to. So you got a week off, but you're allowed to look up, are they pulling water? You can get online and see if if the dam's got any kind of current pulling, if the TVA lake or river system. That information's available to you. So you can adjust your game plan. Look at the water level when you get to the ramp in the morning. Oh, wow, there's a water line on the bank. I'm thinking, okay, so that water looks like it just dropped on me. Probably my best presentations are going to be things that are pulled off the bank. So maybe the reaction bite is going to be a little bit better than trying to get up shallow and flip. Little things like that. You learn over time, and you're going to make better judgments through the day.
Right. It all kind of comes back to spending time on the water. When you pull up at the ramp,
right. That's
pull up and be like, oh, this is what they're going to bite today, and they're usually right about it.
Yep.
So, Fred, I appreciate this. We've been on here almost an hour. I don't know where the hour went to.
Okay.
Jackson, man, I appreciate it, brother. I'm going to hop back on the screen for a second with you.
Real quick, I want to do a screenshot of us before we, hopefully I don't hang us up.
Yeah, don't hang us up.
We got it.
I don't know how to get us back if you do. Let me get.
All right. You there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
You got Jack?
Yeah. I'm ready for this next season. I'm gonna be doing the high school a lot more, and I think it's gonna pay off a lot for me.
I'm excited to see where this thing ends up for you. It's pretty crazy. I mean, I've known you since you were just a little rugrat running around, and watch you grow into this bass catcher is pretty impressive. I can't wait to get in a boat with you and just see. Then I can make a comparison of who's better, you or your dad. That'd be interesting.
We'll do it quickly. quicker, the better for me.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you being on here. I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down. We'll get you back on. Definitely let us know how you do this weekend, Jackson. And Fred, you and Julie have done a tremendous job with both the boys. You know, excited to see where this stuff ends up for them.
Man, thank you. Thank you, Ricky. Love you, brother.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon, man. Y'all have a good evening.